tonight. Can we please give a huge cheer for Patti Webb?
Hi, good evening. A little different, I think. Are you sitting comfortably? I'm a 69-year-old motorbike rider. It's unusual to be, thank you. It's unusual to be riding a bike at 69, but as a woman, maybe a little more so. My Triumph Speed Twin, that's my bike, is my only form of transport. When I'm not riding, I take the bus. Buses are great. Or occasionally I walk. Okay. Why did I start riding? Because my then working partner said that I needed to help transport the equipment for our fire show. I did say fire show. There is another story there, but tonight I'm here to talk about women who ride motorcycles. As I no longer harboured any dreams of becoming a prima ballerina, I was expelled from theatre school for a small drug adventure. I decided I could get a motorbike because breaking my leg would no longer be terminal for my career. My mother had danced. She always told me that I'd be a prima ballerina, but that chance had passed. My first bike was a Yamaha 100, bright yellow, top speed, 70 miles an hour, and it needed an oil and petrol mix to keep it running. Not me. I rode it out of a bike sales room onto the Holloway Road, for anyone who knows London. A big, busy road. I hadn't ridden a bike before. I had no idea about gears, had no road sense. I rode home in first gear, bunny hopping occasionally, stalling, going so slow that I was accompanied by a cacophony of horns. Some loud, some softer, but they all sounded extremely shrill in my ears. I did a motorbike learner's course in a school playground somewhere in King's Cross, I think. A policeman stood in the middle, and we, a motley assortment of small motorbikes, scooters and mopeds, rode around and around. He was a large man with short red hair and a loud voice. He bellowed at us, "Pull in the gear lever, change up to second. No, stop, everyone, someone's stalled." His voice got louder. "So, let's move forward. Oi, you on the scooter? Open your eyes." So I learned about gears with crunches and stalling and insults from the policeman, but I learned. I rode that bike for 10 years. I would allow 15 minutes at the end of every journey to redo my hair because I was a punk. And my asymmetric bright red hair would be squashed under the helmet. Sadly, my drinking got so bad at that point that I couldn't afford to service the bike, and I was too paranoid to ride it. A big bike. A Yamaha Virago 535cc, the poor woman's Harley. I loved it. Shining chrome and a deep red tank, and importantly, it had a top speed of 115 miles an hour. I rode it proudly, careful to keep to speed limits and stop at amber traffic lights. I'd just stopped drinking, so I wanted to do everything perfectly. I soon got over that. I polished the chrome. Oh, sorry, I've gone one too many. That's me. Polishing the chrome, a new convert to the life of polishing. No one was ever going to ever have a chance to say that I didn't look after my bike. It gleamed. On a trip somewhere, I'd stopped for coffee. I lived on caffeine and nicotine, the two drugs I really couldn't give up. I was feeling very biker big. I had my leather jacket and trousers on. I thought I was very cool and out there. I swaggered to the bike and I noticed a load of kids staring out the back window of the van. I preened. I pulled the helmet on, I swung my leg over the bike, I fired it up, side stand up, revved it a bit, went 3 inches forward and fell over. Oh shit. Here I was, lying on the ground, and the young faces in the back of the van were mouths open, pointing. I didn't look at them anymore. A man came over, helped me up with the bike. I thanked him, and then removed the disc lock, which I had left on the front wheel. I thanked him, and I couldn't help it. I just couldn't help it. I looked back at the van, and there they were, laughing. I rode away mortified with a bent gear lever to remind me of my humiliation. Around this time, I met James. He wanted to get back onto bikes, had ridden British bikes, and so began our relationship, inextricably tied up by love and motorbikes. We travelled together down to Avignon, across to Montpellier, and fell in love with the southwest of France, the food, the people, and the respect the French had for motorbikes. I remember riding behind a woman driving a small red car. She pulled so far over to the side to let me pass that she was actually driving in the ditch. The end for the virago came when I was filtering along a queue of traffic, and the car beside my front wheel pulled out without indicating, and I flew and skidded across the road. The bike was written off by the insurance company, and I needed a new one. The Honda Hornet, and it went. Put it into gear and we were off. My hooligan bike, I loved it. James and I were eager to ride the Pyrenean mountain roads. We were staying in a small town called Bagnères de Bigorre, and we decided to do a day trip over to Spain, a big loop round, back up across the border, through the mountains and home. It was later than we'd planned, and night was falling when we arrived at a signpost on our way home. Left, Lord, or right over the mountains, which was shorter by about 40 clicks, so we opted for right. As we were going over the first mountain, the mist started to descend. By the time we reached the top, we were blind. Everything was invisible, including the edge. I stopped. I'm not going any further. I can't see a thing. I'm staying here. I don't care. If I die here, I'm not moving. I'll go in front, says James. My headlight's more powerful. If you just move over a little bit. No, not happening. Not moving, not anything. Staying here. I was rigid with fear. I had no idea where the edge of the mountain was, and the fog had enveloped us. Nothing was visible. Mountains. I remember shaking with terror and cold. The noise of an engine sounded coming up behind us. A small truck veered round us, headlights blazing, and turned down the road. Follow him, yelled James. And we did. He lit our way down the mountain and turned off as the mist was dispersing. Okay, all good. Still alive, I thought. But up ahead were strange, ghostly shapes. Large, ghostly shapes. They came into focus as cows. Enormous Pyrenean cows. We clung to the left, where the most that could happen was that they squashed us against the rock. They ambled by, bells occasionally clanking. Cream and huge, they towered over us, sedately walking one behind the other, past the two idiot riders on the mountainside. Up ahead, I could see a jeep, headlights on, and a dark shape beside it. Now the cows were past, we moved slowly towards it. He, or she, was on the mountainside of the road, and next to the jeep was a horned mass, which emerged from the darkness to reveal the largest bull I have ever seen. To go past him, we had to ride on the right, the side of the endless drop off the mountain. We rode very slowly and wished our bikes to be as quiet as possible. Please don't nudge me. Please don't move left. Please, I just want to go by. I'm not the enemy. I hate bullfights. I'm just a small woman on a motorbike. Please, just stay there. Please, let me live. He was enormous, towering high above us, and so wide. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but that was one very big bull. We breathed, and once we were past, we rode sedately on. Very glamorous, this one. The Honda CBF 1000. Why did I buy it? Because it was 1,000cc, of course. It went fast. The seat lowered enough so that I could put my feet flat on the ground. I am 5'2" tall. I could outrun the fastest bike riders in my motorbike club, and I never loved it. So, historical facts. I got it up to 130 miles an hour on a straight road just outside Le Mans. I dropped it more than any other bike I owned because it was so heavy. It was a lump. That's not very complimentary, but I have had a real affinity with all my bikes, just not that one. Some slides of where the bike and I went. Top of the Pyrenean Mountains. James and the bikes, we were probably lost at the time. And the amazing French, the French really know how to organise a demonstration. It was a bike demonstration, and there were thousands of us. The FFMC, the French, what is it, the Fédération Française Motarde en Colère, angry French motorcyclists. There you go. So James and I went to live in Asia for a couple of years after this. My photography by then was getting serious, and I wanted to go to Burma after the release of Aung San Suu Kyi, plus I took photos for a charity in India. So we rode small scooters in Thailand. This is the most dreadful photo of me I put there. Oh, sorry. No. That's Burma for you. That was India. And when we got back, I tried to ride the CBF, but I just couldn't get used to the weight. So I sold it. We both went back to bikes we loved. James on a big old Yamaha, and me on a second-hand Hornet. We did one more trip to the Pyrenees before I traded in my Hornet for a Triumph Speed Twin. And shortly afterwards, James smashed his ankle, so we couldn't travel that year. The pandemic arrived, lockdown happened, and it was towards the end of lockdown when James was diagnosed with lung cancer and given 5 weeks to live. Shock does not begin to describe our emotions. He died 5 weeks later, and I grieved. I didn't want to ride my bike. I couldn't ride. It felt impossible to ride without James behind me. So if I cry a bit now, it's okay, because crying's okay when you lose someone you love. We had a friend, Dave, who had bought James's bike. What I didn't know was he'd made a promise to James to help me get back on my bike and ride behind me until I got my confidence back. Grief involves a lot that feels like fear. So I was just too scared to ride. So we went on short runs to the local bike cafe. Oh, sorry, I forgot. I just thought a couple of pictures of James, just because that's him. And carrying my gear, which was such a useful thing to do. Anyway, so off we went to Winchelsea. This is Dave. Coffee, round trip past Winchelsea, back up the A21, off up to the 1066 cafe and home again, slowly getting longer and building my confidence. Then I heard about the Women in Motorcycle exhibition at Burton-on-Trent. Not a short run at all. We decided to go. Journey was long, 5 hours, not easy for me. I had no stamina, so lots of stops for coffee and sugar. We got there to the grounds of the old castle and I was inspired. All these women on bikes. I listened to the talks of women who rode around the world, bought a book, took loads of photos. This is WIMA, Women's International Motorcycling Association. Great graphics. The bikes, lots of them. At the women's event, I had made a connection with Jackie Furno, who rode all over India, Nepal, Pakistan and Australia. I wanted to take pictures of her. Early the next spring, I rode down to Bristol. It was my first long trip on my own for over 2 decades, and I need water. Okay, on we go. Yeah. It was literally the first time that I had ridden on my own for something like, I don't know, 2 decades. For the first time since James had died, I really enjoyed riding on my own. The long stretches of just riding. The countryside flowing by, smells seeping in. No need to sign to the person behind me that I was turning off. I just turned off. Minus point. No one to chat to. No one to say, did you see that car do that? I took photos of Jackie, and on the way back I stayed at some biker friends in Dorset and rested for nearly a day. I should say at this point, I suffer with medium ME. I would call it medium ME. So every time I say rest, it means I have no choice. I have to rest. So I was taking pictures of Louisa at home and on her bike when the germ of an idea began to appear. So the next year I went to the Women's Exhibition for a second year, and then I went on to the Overland show on my own. I was starting to clock up solo miles. I met 2 more women who had done serious world miles on bikes, and the idea was beginning to come into focus. Annie Leibovitz had shot photos of women in their everyday clothes, and then as they transformed into showgirls. It's a great book if you can ever get hold of it. I wanted to show women in their everyday or work clothes, and then their image when they were on their motorbikes. I put the word out among various female biking groups. Largely, I nobbled women at cafes and asked if they'd like to be photographed. Didn't always go down well. The word spread through around, and 4 female bikers came down here to Hastings. I took photographs of them in the county park and on the Stade, and a project had been born out of my grief. A set of photos that would dispel the myth that we were only rough, tough women, or that Marianne Faithfull represented anything real about women on bikes. The reality is that we come from all professions and we represent a complete range of types of women. So in October 2022, I set off on an 1,100 round trip to take shots of the 4 long-distance riders I'd met: Jackie Furno, Tiffany Coates, and Shiona and Pat, aka the Dusty Old Bags. Tiffany has ridden all over the world. Her favourite story begins with, let me tell you about when I ran out of petrol in the middle of the Mongolian desert. So, Bristol first, and then down to Weymouth. Then this was the moors at Davisstow, just outside Camelford. I don't normally take shots of sunsets, but that one was pretty spectacular. I rested there for a day and a night, and finally sunrise in Penzance. So I did it. I rode through rain and sunshine, autumn colours streamed by me, the rhythm of riding had returned. I was taking each bend as it came, not dwelling on mistakes, going at 60 miles an hour when I wanted to look around, up to 90 when I wanted to make good progress, filtering, overtaking smoothly and slowing when the road looked busy up ahead. I chatted to strangers, waiters, coffee drinkers. It felt good. I rode back to my friends in Dorset to sleep for hours, eat and drink tea. Not bad, really, for a woman who'd been too fearful to ride her motorbike. This is a project to celebrate women who ride motorbikes, off them and on them. A project grown out of the death of a loved partner and expanded with the help and support of the amazing women who ride motorbikes. My deepest thanks go to my friend Dave, who kept his promise to James and got me back on my motorbike. To Louisa and Tony, who fed me, let me rest and provided endless cups of tea. And of course to all those women who ride bikes around the world or around the countryside for fun. There will be a zine, and I'll be showing the pictures over the May Bank holiday weekend. Haven't been able to get them into the venue I wanted, but I do have a small unit in St Andrews Mews, so if anyone has any better ideas, do come and talk to me afterwards. Now, if I can get this right, here are the pictures. This is Louisa. This is Florence, Rides for Fun. This is Ruth. She rides for fun. Pat, who's ridden up through South America, shipped the bikes across to Japan. This is Sam, who rides for fun. Real fun. This is Sarah, who's one of the smoothest riders I've ever ridden behind. Amazing. Really, really lovely rider. Shiona, Pat's partner. Japan, they went down to Malaysia through Korea. Steph, who's been riding for about 18 months now and is now learning to ride off-road. Jackie, who I talked about before, who's travelled mostly Middle East and Australia, lots and hundreds and thousands of miles. And Tiffany, having a morning dip on her bike. The girls, having fun, and me in a younger incarnation.
Patti, look, wasn't she wonderful? Isn't that story? Thank you so much. That's right. So, good to the